Ladies and gents, welcome back in to another episode of the Insight NFL Fantasy Podcast. And tonight, it's we've got a little bit more of an intimate one, and I kind of like these shows where it's just one-on-one with Mav. You know, it feels like we're out at dinner or something, but instead of dinner, we're getting into the steak. You know, fantasy NFL. We're only 9 Sundays away from the season start. Mav, how are you feeling tonight, mate?
Yeah, it feels a bit like a Tinder date, doesn't it? Like one of those ones where you get into and you sit down at the table and you just hash it all out straight there. No fucking around. Um, and then hopefully back to the room later on for some ground and pound. But um, no, look, it should be good, mate. It's going to be a pretty casual one. You know, we're talking rises or declines tonight, or shine or bust, or whichever way you want to sort of say it. But it's all the same shit, really. So yeah, it should be a good episode of thinking of a few guys that we're going to mention tonight
Yeah, and I
who
think they got. Oh yeah, no, you go.
who was pretty much sort of on that bubble of bit of controversy going into the year. Like we're not sure if they're sort of going to be good or bad, or sort of on that fringe. So looking forward to getting your takes on a few players that we talk about tonight.
Yeah, you honestly you took the words right out of my mouth. When you controversial, that's all I think when it comes to these players. Like looking at these guys, like it really can go either way. So yeah, it will be interesting to see your takes on some of these guys too, and how that kind of lines up. I know the guys you've got there. Yeah, I'm 50-50 on all of them. So yeah, it'll be a nice fun episode to jump into. But to start off, we normally have a bit of news. But tonight we're kind of, in between a bit of a lull period. We're a couple of weeks away until training camp really kicks off for everybody. The rookie training camp for some teams, it'll start to kick off around the 12th, 13th of July, so middle of next week. But by the 23rd of July, all teams, all players will be diving in and competing, which will will give us so much more to talk about. There'll be a heap of news. We'll be covering training camp hype and what we kind of think of it when it gets to that stage. But looking at it now, Mav, there's going to be some key camp battles that are just going to have a huge impact on fantasy. Who are you kind of keeping your eye out on most? Like what kind of backfields, wide receiving rooms? What's your taste here?
Mate, to be honest, there's probably not one in particular that I'm looking forward to the most. It's probably majority of the running back rooms is always sparks a bit of controversy going to training camp. I mean, look, obviously you take Josh Jacobs and Christian McCaffrey and stuff like that. You take them out of the top running backs in the league, but it's more so the mid-tier running back rooms, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing what Dallas does at the RB room. To be honest, I mean, you got 3 running backs there that you're probably not sure about who's the starter. It's probably going to be Javonta, but again, that could be a deep dive fantasy option there in drafts. So there's definitely a few. I mean, let's say the James Cook situation. Let's say if he holds out. That's probably another one that you probably need to look at. But outside of that, the Giants is obviously a nice one too. See what they do. But mate, to be honest, it's probably a majority of the running back rooms for me that will get my attention. Wide receivers are a bit sort of, you pretty much know who's going to be the 1 and 2 for the majority of the time. I suppose you're just looking for that guy who comes out of nowhere as a late bolter. Maybe that's a Trey Harris. Maybe that's a Jaden Higgins as rookies that might be on your fantasy radar. It's tough. It's tough. No, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to talking some football in training camp. We'll have episodes for training camp hype, as you said. There'll be plenty to talk about during that time, and mate, just bring on football, really.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. There's going to be just so much dopamine that's going to be going out when we get all these training camp news that's coming through. And yeah, I'm like you said, I'm keen to watch all of them as well. Just there's pretty sure every camp, probably not Baltimore. I feel like Baltimore's pretty locked up. That's really the only one I can think off the top of my head where there's not going to be too much swaying. But I mean, with all the rookie influx that we have, especially in that running back department, there's going to be some key battles to watch. The one between Najee and Amari and Hampton, that's one for me. I know I've got a whole heap of Najee Harris shares after calling my shot there, and I doubled down and hedged my bets, and I've got a lot of Hampton shares as well. So we'll see how that way goes. But yeah,
I think the Chargers training camp in itself is going to be pretty fun to watch. I mean, look, Lad McConkey right now is he being overvalued? Maybe he's definitely the number 1 coming into the year, but as you said, the running back room there at the Chargers with Trey Harris there as a wide receiver, as a rookie. Yeah, there's a lot that could happen there at the Chargers, I reckon, and plenty of possible value we can get out of that too. So, Lad McConkey, as I said, is the number one. Is he being overvalued, undervalued? He's not going to be on tonight's show, but that's probably another one that we could have mentioned for tonight. But yeah, I don't mind Lad, but yeah, I actually the Chargers training camp is definitely one to watch for mine.
For sure. And this is where you get your edges, right? Like this is where you gain an advantage in your leagues if you can kind of stay on top of all this training camp news. And it's only very small kind of things, but you take that information, you call your shots, and if you hit, it can hit in a pretty big way.
But
touching, yeah.
I'll give you an example from last year's training camp. Chase Brown was training the house down, and then didn't get an opportunity sort of early on in the year, but had an opportunity by about week 3, week 4, and then just took that opportunity and bolted, man. He's now a top running back in the league. So that's just a classic example of keeping your eye on training camp, because those guys will come up this year. It always happens every year. There's always a couple of guys that get drafted around round 9, round 10, round 11 who are trading the house down, and then get an opportunity and don't look back.
Yeah, and it's really those ambiguous situations where there's no clear guy. That's really where they can really separate themselves. Touching on what you said about the James Cook holdout, another guy that we've got to watch with the holdout is Terry McLaurin. There's hasn't been any real progress. And I mean, looking at it, if he holds out and doesn't start the year, if he's still waiting on a contract, I mean, is Debo someone that we're going to be invested in? Is that late round rookie Jalen Lane? Is he going to be a little sleeper if Terry holds out? There's just so many questions that are going to be asked, and we'll find out those answers very shortly in the upcoming weeks. So definitely looking forward to it.
Mate, even Michael Gallup is back in the league at the Commanders at the moment. Look, he's probably not an option. Luke McCaffrey, obviously, as you said, is obviously another option there. Noah Brown has been okay when he was at Houston. So, definitely one to watch, mate. As I said in the past episode, I expect him to get a deal done, but it's murky.
Yep. We'll just have to wait and see, and we hope all of you are tuning in with us. But we'll jump into tonight's show, and as Mav tried to put out there earlier, it's a shine or decline tonight. and this year, it's really just kind of looking at very controversial fantasy players. I know, just looking through the list, there's definitely parties that are on either side of the fence, I think. And hopefully we're going to talk through these guys, give a bit of a case, and just really give our takes on how we see the 2025 season planning out for these players. We'll jump straight in. Mav, I'll kick us off. CJ Stroud, for me, he was one that first came to mind. I just think with the draft hype that happened after his rookie year, I mean, he finished as like a top 15 quarterback, had a stellar rookie season, and that following season, I know in Dynasty, he was a top 7 QB in Dynasty rankings going at the back end of the first round. Even in redraft leagues, he was taken early as the second round. And I mean, what an absolute fall from grace. If you took CJ Stroud last year, you definitely weren't happy with that investment. He finished as, looking at last year's stats, finishes the quarterback 18, 3,700 passing yards, 20 touchdowns to 12 ints. And he added a little bit on the ground with 233 rushing yards. So looking at CJ Stroud last year, I mean, we can all put a case together that we can make some excuses for CJ Stroud. I mean, his wide receiver room just got absolutely depleted. Nico Collins was the first one to go. I think he pulled his hamstring early and he was out for 8 or so weeks. And then from there, Stephon Diggs out for the year, and also Tank Dell had a year-ending injury. And I mean, those guys were kind of flying when it was all three. It was looking good. The O-line was, when they started off, it was looking okay, but by the end of the year, that O-line was ranked as a bottom 5 offensive line in the league, and the amount of pressures that CJ Stroud was kind of getting at him, couldn't really do too much with it. So for me, CJ Stroud, current ADP, quarterback 13, start of the 5th round. So just that drop off, the hype is well and truly leveled out from last year, especially with just how disappointing his year was. But for me, I think I'm on the side of decline for CJ Stroud. Probably not so much on his current ADP, because QB 13, yeah, he probably could finish around there, but I don't think his ceiling is really going to be there this year. The O line still stinks. They did still add some weapons in the draft with Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Christian Kirk, he's also joined the team, but I just think that offensive line they barely used it or barely upgraded it at all, barely invested anything in the draft. And I just think if he doesn't have time in the pocket, I just think it's going to be very similar to how this last year has played out. So, what do you kind of think of CJ Stroud, Mav, and what are your kind of thoughts on him for this new season?
I think he is what he is, to be honest. I mean,
Mm,
what, QB 18 in his second year, QB 11 in his rookie year.
yeah,
So, the ADP of, well, QB 13 coming into the draft season is probably about right. He's probably going to finish around that mark. He offers 0 to 200 rushing yards a year. So he offers you nothing on the ground. He had 3 rushing touchdowns in his first year. That could be his career high by the end of his career. But yeah, I don't know. Like he's probably like in superflex leagues. If you get him as a QB2 in your superflex position, I think that's okay. Like you'll have some big weeks where Nico Collins has gone bonkers, and he might get Christian Kirk going and everything like that. So yeah, I don't mind it, but he should not be a QB1 on your roster. If you've got 1 QB leagues, he's probably not the option in 12 teamers. Look, he's probably on that fringe, I suppose, but I'm taking guys like Justin Herbert over him at this point. Brock Purdy probably in that same category. I'd be probably taking Brock Purdy over CJ Stroud as well. Dak Prescott probably the same with him. So yeah, I just think he's what he is. I don't think it's a decline. I don't think it's going to be any real shine. I think he just simply just is what he is. So it's much really more to add on CJ Stroud for mine.
yeah, very lukewarm. I reckon if I had to put a bow on it, very lukewarm on CJ Stroud. Yeah, honestly, comfortable if you had to take him at the start of round 5. It's definitely more, I guess, easier to swallow than last year. In the second round, or even Horse had here. He picked him in the first round last year, and definitely just nuked your season having him on your team. And they also added a new offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick. He was going to be the hotness in head coaching jobs, and he just had a fall from grace. They very predictable down the stretch. So a few new additions. I think it'll take a year or two for CJ Stroud to kind of find it fitting. I think long term he's going to be a great quarterback for the league, but I think next year for fantasy or the season coming up in September, yeah, he's no real ceiling and he's going to be pretty mid.
I mean, they lost Laramie Tunsil, the left tackle, to Washington. So, that was a pretty big loss at the time. And they didn't really add anyone, as you said. So I think it definitely hinges on the offensive line. Him staying upright is obviously a big thing for fantasy value. Yes, they've upgraded. Have they upgraded? I guess they're okay at wide receiver. Like they're not perfect, but they've got options. But yeah, mate. If would you be shocked if you finished playing wide receiver 11 to 15? Probably not. Would you be shocked if he was top 10? Well, you'd think there'd be a lot of injuries in the league if that was the case. He'd have to pass for probably 30 touchdowns in the year if he's going to be top 10, top 8, something like that. So is that possible? Yeah, it is. But I think it's also asking a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all it is with CJ Stroud. If you get him, it's okay. It's okay. But in the 5th round, we want upside. We wanna go for guys that are gonna definitely exceed their ADP. And I think it'll be pretty average with CJ Stroud next year. But Mav, we'll jump onto your first guy here. Caleb Williams. We'll continue the quarterback train. What are your thoughts on Caleb Williams for 2025?
Mate, if we're talking sort of upside in the 5th round, 4th, 5th round, Caleb Williams is there available. I would be taking him any day of the week over CJ Stroud.
Yep.
They got plenty of weapons there now at Chicago. They got 3 arguably really solid wide receivers, young wide receivers. I think DJ Moore's still okay. And then you've got obviously tight ends coming out of their asses as well. Cole Kmet still in the house as a tight end 2 there too as well. So, do we see a possibility of Caleb Williams and also, might I add, they upgrade that offensive line, just to put it out there first. That is massive for him. Now it's time for Caleb Williams with the new offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson from Detroit, to take the next step in his career, take less sacks. I thought a lot of the sacks he took last year were just trying to continue plays we probably should have gone down. But you could see the talent when he had time in the pocket to fire. So I think this is the year that Caleb Williams can go bonkers. Can we see a top 8 season in his position? I can see it. Can you see him pass for 4,000 yards in a season? I can see it. I can see a pathway to him having a very successful year with a very, very solid offense behind himself.
Yeah, I think now for Caleb Williams, just to start off with, I think he is a shine for me if I had to pick between the two, because last year it was just he was at the bottom of the barrel. It was definitely not the rookie season that we'd hoped. Similar to CJ Stroud, I think a lot of excuses could be made for Caleb Williams. That coaching carousel that he had to deal with throughout the year, it was just an absolute shit show. And I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick too. The hype was well and truly there. Generational prospect, and yeah, he definitely did flash. And all those sacks, was at the O-line, him scrambling and trying to do too much at the end. And yeah, I think this year it's going to be no excuses for Caleb Williams. He's got all the weapons in the world. He's got an offensive mastermind in Ben Johnson that's going to be, mentoring him and calling those plays there. So hopefully we see a lot of easier plays just to get Caleb Williams in rhythm. But yeah, the rushing alone, I think he'd rushed for nearly 500 yards very sneakily in his rookie year. So if he's adding that upside, we just know how valuable that rushing production is for quarterbacks. And yeah, so just under 500 yards, 489 yards rather, no touchdowns either. So if he adds a couple of touchdowns on the ground,
he will.
He could have a great year.
Yeah, he definitely will. He definitely will. Instead of running sideways, it'll be forwards. So yeah, he's got some wheels on him, which is always good. The running game's pretty good too, might I add. So he's going to have some help there. DeAndre Swift isn't awful, and Roshan Johnson, DFAB's man's in the house, still there as well. So the offense, the running back room's okay. So they're going to have to be honest. The defense is going to have to be honest on him, take him seriously. There's going to be some more tape, don't get me wrong, to sit there and try and scheme around him. But the first 3 weeks of the season, he's got Minnesota, Detroit, and Dallas. So those 3 defenses aren't like amazing. They're just dead average, if anything. So I think that'll be a good chance for him to really get onto the front foot early into the year and just go bonkers. Especially Minnesota being a divisional matchup in week 1. You get up for those games. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see how he goes. Luther Burden, we haven't been too high on him in our rankings and what we think of his landing spot, but he's still in the house. That's good for Caleb Williams. So. But I think the biggest thing is just Ben Johnson, man. I think that's probably the biggest thing to take away out of Caleb Williams and the offense is, yeah, he's just an absolute mastermind of a offensive coordinator. We saw it last year in Detroit. God, anything could really happen with this offense, and I'm looking forward to watching the Bears. Hopefully, they can finally beat the Packers.
If only. I think they might have a good chance this year. And yeah, not only with Ben Johnson's that offensive line upgrade, it was just really good to see that was the first thing that Ben Johnson came in and he wanted to do. He had a clear path. He definitely wasn't listening to the fantasy community, but we were hoping for an offensive line upgrade because that just it's the boat that just raises everything. It supports everything. And yeah, the amount of sacks he took last year was just astronomical. So it sounds like, Mav, that he's a big shine for you for 2025. And I think top 5 upside for sure. I think so. Yeah, it'll be good to see how that kind of plays out.
And you compare him to CJ Stroud, who we just talked about, for example. As I said before, I just see a pathway for this guy being a top 5, top 8 quarterback option for this year. Am I more confident that he will become that option over CJ Stroud? I definitely am. And as I said, man, or as you said, should I say, the rushing upside is just that it's for a quarterback. It's you just can't just
Cheat
deny
code.
it. Yeah, it is. And if he can add 600 rushing yards to his repertoire, plus 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns, yeah, yeah. Enough said.
Yep. Yep. We'll move on to the next guy with that. And this one here, Mav, I am a bit curious to see what side of the fence you sit on with this one. And I know last year the hype, he was arguably the number one overall running back up there with Bijan. It's Breece Hall, and just he had such a good year. He was coming off that injury the year prior, but last year definitely didn't live up to the hype. Finishes the RB16 in PPR. Didn't crack 1,000 rushing yards, 876 he had on the ground, only 5 rushing touchdowns, but he still has that reception and receiving upside. I mean, he had 57 receptions last year, and he added a couple of TDs to go along with it. Currently, he's going as the RB12 in the early 4th round, which is much more digestible. And just for me, I've got Damo's footy in here in the chat. Breece Hall is a decline. This Damo's on the other side of it, mate. I think Breece Hall, I think he could be a value this year. And I think his talent, we've I guess one of the main kind of pushbacks for Breece Hall has been Aaron Glenn, new head coach, coming out and all the talk about, oh, we've got all these good running backs. We'll use a committee approach. But I think that's all just a smoke show. I think Breece Hall, the talent is just levels above Braylon Allen and also Isaiah Davis. And looking at that offense, it's Justin Fields, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall. Like that's it. That's end of list. So their offensive line as well, they spent a top 10 draft pick upgrading that this year, along with another top 10 pick last year that they used on that O-line. So sneaky top 10 O-line in the league. And I think they're going to be running the ball a whole heap. Justin Fields, rush dual QB, opening up those lanes. I really think Breece is primed for a bounce back, and another year removed from that knee injury that he sustained. Yeah, I think he could be a top 5 guy coming in this year, and I'm going to have him everywhere. But what's your thoughts here, Mav, on Breece Hall?
I'm sort of a bit of a fade, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't mind where he's currently going at for his ADP. I think it's a bit juicy, but it's what we think of what Justin Fields is going to bring to this offense is probably the thing to look at. You said he's probably a run first quarterback. He probably is. He needs to improve his passing. His passing's okay, but it's probably just okay. Nothing great, good about it. Is he a game manager? Maybe, which is fine for a NFL team, but for fantasy, we probably want a bit more. I feel as though Breece Hall is going to get a lot of volume, like rushing volume as such. It's going to be run first offense. I truly believe that. But is that going to mean he's going to be efficient with his touches? Is he going to break down? You mentioned the running back room there, and it's there's some okay names in there. Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, they're okay. But is Breece Hall going to be carrying the ball 20 times a game, or is it going to be 15? I think it's going to be probably between 15 and 20. But yeah, efficiency-wise is going to be the problem. Is he going to get a lot of receiving work, like dump-offs? I don't think he will. So that's going to hamper his game a little bit. So he's going to have to make his money in the red zone. Does he get that, or does Braylon Allen get that? I'd expect Breece Hall, but Braylon Allen being a big bruiser, would you be shocked?
It definitely could happen. It definitely could happen. But yeah, I just think that Breece Hall, just the pure talent alone, I think he's got a chip on his shoulder too from last year. So, I guess we're playing into the mental stakes of it all. But yeah, I think he's just going to come out swinging. And with the Justin Fields and the check down kind of rate, I do have a little bit of data from Fantasy Points data. These guys, and it was a very small sample size last year, only 6 games, but Justin Fields had the highest to lowest check down rates last year with 14.9%. And second was Derek Carr at 11.8, and then Bo Nix at 11.6. So just for a little bit of reference, I know very small sample size. Usually over Justin Fields' career, he doesn't check down as much, but we saw that swing a little bit last year. And I mean, if it swings more on that side, Brees Hall is going to be the main beneficiary. I mean, Braylon Allen isn't going to be catching passes in the backfield. It's only going to be Brees Hall, and only if he only gets 15 touches, he's a big play threat. We see Brees Hall; he's always looking for those holes to make a big play. So it's only going to take a couple plays, and there's 15, 20 points for the week. So I'm very, very high on Brees Hall, and I like hearing that, Mav, that you're not too keen on him, because in our redraft leagues this year, just one less person that I have to compete with, so that's even better.
Yeah, look, I don't mind Brees Hall. I'm just going to check where he's at right now with what he's ranked at. So he's ranked at RB14 at the moment, in between the likes of Chase Brown and Kenny Walker. So yeah, that's probably about right. I would probably be using a higher pick to be getting someone like an A-Chain or a Kyron Williams over a Brees Hall, because they're probably the safer options compared. So I wouldn't put myself in a position to draft Brees Hall. I mean, if he's your RB2, maybe. But as an RB1, depending on what pick you get, obviously is key. But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those ones with Garrett Wilson as well. It's a murky sort of situation. I don't really know what to expect in this offense. Aaron Glenn being a defensive-minded head coach is also another concern. Maybe they play conservative throughout the year and pound the ball, or maybe they just start airing out a little bit and let Justin Fields play yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
So
look,
I'd
be probably staying away if I could.
Yeah. So it's a decline. Okay. Right. So a little bit of a disagreement to get into here. A bit of shine on my side, decline on Mav. Yeah, it'll be a fun one to watch out, because I mean, I know I had so many Brees Hall shares last year. I mean, had him so much in Dynasty, and I mean, he finishes at RB16. It does suck, because you had him, I had him top 2 RB in the league, but I think, this year could be a bounce back, but one to watch. It's going to be an interesting one, that Jets offense. It could surprise people, or it could be garbage. So
it's been garbage for a long time.
It has. But we'll go on to your next guy here, Mav, and wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, who you've got.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy I thought was an interesting one. He was almost last year. He was just an almost player, right? I felt like he was being used in like gadget plays and not really commanding a shitload of targets, to be honest with you. He's been touted as a top 55 player going into this year on in terms of ADPs. So that's a very high price tag for a guy who's a bit of an unknown in terms of what fantasy production we're going to get out of him. Let's have a look at it. The Super Bowl was pretty good for him. 8 for 8 for 157 and 2 touchdowns. I was thinking, we're sitting there going, is this what we're going to see out of Xavier Worthy next year, or is this just smoke and mirrors?
Yeah, garbage time.
Yeah, so they've already come out and said they want to open up the plays a little bit more and bring back Kansas City football of getting the long balls back and more sort of over 20-yard plays and everything like that, which is exciting. That would probably bring Xavier Worthy into the game. But at the same time, like, he had a few missed drop balls, quite a few drop balls last year. So it's hard. If they bring the Chiefs football back of the long ball city, then maybe Xavier Worthy might be a play. But until then, it's a very high price tag for a if.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like they left a lot on the table last year too. I mean, there were so many players where Mahomes and Worthy, they were just missed out on that connection. So I mean, maybe if 3 or 4 of those players go the right way, he mightn't even be up for discussion. But just looking at it now, like Rashee Rice, it doesn't look like that suspension's coming this year. It looks like that's going to be pushed back again. And when both of these guys were on the field, Rashee Rice was just the main guy. I know very small sample size before Rice got injured. But I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, looking at where he's going now, Devontae Adams is in that same round. And I think that's a no-brainer. That is just not even close. Not even close. So
last year, and obviously it's not really just not hiding any facts because it's fact, but he didn't receive more than 4 targets until week 13 last year. And when he had 4 or more targets, he was actually okay. You know, wide receiver 39 in week 14, pretty average. But wide receiver 16 in week 15, wide receiver 11 in week 16, and then wide receiver 15 in week 17. So, yeah, he just needs. Sorry, he actually had. I was looking at receptions. Sorry, he didn't have more than 4 receptions until after week 13. So, um, you know, Hollywood Brown still in the house. He didn't play at all, really. So he's back in. Rashee Rice is in. Pacheco's back.
We
Running
think.
game will still be okay.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of options here. Kelsey still going around. Yeah. I wouldn't touch Xavier Worthy till round 8, and that's probably a big
Yeah.
call. But there's just far too much risk there for a guy who's still a maybe for mine.
Yeah, we're on the same page here, Mav. Yeah, he's a decline for me also. There's just too many questions, and if Rasheed Rice is healthy and the main guy, I think he's just going to be the one. And Kelsey, he definitely will decline. He's he can't beat Father Time, but he's still going to get a heap of looks. And yeah, it's an interesting one to see. I don't know if I don't think the Chiefs will be that good this year. Either I think they're gonna. I think they're gonna take a bit of a step back. I think they'll probably miss out definitely on the conference championship games. So one to see for sure. And with their defense, I mean, their defense was keeping them in everything last year. So if their defense, regresses a little bit, does that open up for more shootouts and Xavier Worthy in garbage time? We've seen what he can do, maybe, but yeah, there's just a bit too much risk, I think, and not as clear as a path as what we'd probably hoped.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. We'll go into my last guy for this evening, and I had to get in this guy quick because he is on the team of the hat that you're wearing, Mav, and that's George Pickens, newly acquired by the Cowboys this offseason in a big trade. And Pickens last year, it was pretty sad. Finishes the wide receiver 42 in PPR formats. It did miss 3 games, so those numbers were hurt a little bit in that. But 59 receptions, 900 yards, and 3 TDs. Current ADP is wide receiver 30, and he's mid-round 7. So touching on Xavier Worthy, I'm taking George Pickens well above Xavier Worthy. I think just looking at his system here, Dak, if he's healthy, he's the best quarterback that Pickens has had in his career by a long shot. I mean, he's had the likes of Kenny Pickett, Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, also Mason Rudolph for a couple of games in there too. So I just think with this new offensive system, yes, he is taking a step back. He's going to be the wide receiver 2 for this team behind CeeDee Lamb, but I think that's going to be the world of good for Pickens. He's not going to have the number 1 secondary on him. That's going to be all CeeDee Lamb. He's going to be commanding all that attention. And Dak Prescott, he's so accurate when throwing that deep ball. And Pickens, I mean, we've seen what he can do with a deep ball. When Russell Wilson did have those games last year and those moon balls, Pickens was playing pretty well. So I think we definitely haven't seen Pickens' ceiling as of yet, and I think that can be unlocked now that he's at the Cowboys. And another thing to add in, their defense for the Cowboys, I think that's going to be below average this year. So more shootouts, more work for Pickens. I think they're going to be playing catch up with, and it's going to be all on Dak in that receiving room. And I think Pickens will eat.
Yeah, don't mind it. Don't mind it. I feel as though he's going to be very boom and bust though in fantasy. CeeDee Lamb will take the best cornerback every single week. So that means that could allow Pickens to have more one-on-one opportunities on the outside. He probably doesn't really get those short to intermediate passes a lot. He does specialize more in the long ball. And as you said, Dak's pretty good at the long ball. Dak's an okay fantasy, an okay NFL QB, but a pretty solid fantasy QB. So I don't mind the play. At least you know that there's a pathway for Pickens to be the number 1 or the number 2 in this offense. With Worthy, if you can compare him to Worthy, he could be the 3 or the 4 any given week. So yeah, that if we're comparing, that's exactly how I see it as. But yeah, if CeeDee Lamb misses any time, then Pickens is the number one, and suddenly he's worth shitloads. So yeah, I don't mind it. Yeah, the only problem is he's just very boom or bust for mine, and we're waiting on George Pickens to really break out, and I don't think he probably will. Um, Probably not with CeeDee Lamb in the house. So I think he's actually just getting drafted at the spot where he should be getting drafted, to be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he could be a fantasy matchup winner, as I said. He could have games of 25 plus easily.
Yeah,
So
he can definitely win you weeks. Yeah, so a little bit lukewarm on Pickens, Mav. Yeah,
yeah,
well,
I am on the
I'm
fence.
I'm for sure a shine. And just one thing that I also wanted to bring up for Dak. I mean, I think Dak's going to have a great year. Of course, health forbidding, but looking at, I think this is the best receiving core also that Dak's had before. Or looking back at Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb's early days, Pickens and CD, these are going to be his best duo that he's had. And looking back in 2023, when he had Brandon Cooks as a wide receiver too, Brandon Cooks went on a pretty good stretch there with touchdowns, and he had 8 touchdowns to finish that year. Pickens, his highest so far in his career has been 5 touchdowns in a season. So I think, I mean, George Pickens is definitely better than a 30-year-old Brandon Cooks in my eyes. I'm not
Yeah,
saying that it's going to be like for like, but he definitely has 8 to 10 touchdown upside, especially with how much they're going to have to throw this ball, because that running back room, I mean, it's definitely not going to do them any favors. So
it's
I'm
going to be
I'm
run
a big
first
shine.
offense.
Yep, for sure. It's going to be all on Dak's hands and all on the receiving core hand. But yeah, I'm a huge shine for Pickens this year, and I'm going to be taking him every year, everywhere. I think he's got top 15 wide receiver upside.
And if you get him in his current ADP, as you said, like he may be your last flex position player, or he may
Yep.
be on your bench, depending on your league format, obviously. And if that's the case for either way, I like it. I actually really like it. Yeah, I wouldn't reach for George
Mm,
Pickens, might I add. But if you get him where he's at, I think it's brilliant.
yeah. I don't think you'll need to reach either. Having him in that flex play, he could win you a week.
Yeah,
There's a big
easily.
20 to 30 point game, then you're off to the races. But looking at George Pickens in that kind of 7th round, your last guy here, Mav, is going just a little bit earlier. Who have you got here at the wide receiver position?
DK Metcalf is probably one of the most intriguing players coming into this fantasy football season for mine. I love his profile. I've loved his history. He's been a really good servant to fantasy football in the past. But now the situation might have just changed. He's got Aaron Rodgers at QB. I do not like that. New offense. I don't really like that. Is there competition for targets? Not really. So he could get double teamed. I don't really like that. But he's also just an absolute powerhouse of a human being, an athletically gifted player, a bit like myself. And yeah, it's is he going to be able to break open the offense and really command 15 targets and bring down 10 receptions for 130 yards and a couple of tutties? I'm not sure with the way that Aaron Rodgers looked at the end of last year. So I'm a bit of a decline, mate.
It is a tough one with DK. And yeah, like he just finished there, that Aaron Rodgers news. I mean, it's interesting, but I mean, for fantasy, Rodgers supported Devontae and Garrett Wilson at the back end of last year. I mean, they both had some big weeks. But yeah, just this offense, Arthur Smith, they're definitely going to be run first. It'll be interesting to see kind of how that matchup, or between Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers, like if they're going to clash heads a little bit, maybe Aaron will just try and take over a little bit there. That'll be one to keep an eye out on. But I think I'm a shine for DK. I mean, looking at where he's going, Xavier Worthy, Travis Hunter is ahead of him. I'm taking DK over both those guys. Clear number 1 target, and just kind of thinking at like what a similar offensive system has looked like before. under Arthur Smith back when he was at Tennessee, and it was Tannehill and AJ Brown, and they didn't really have anybody else. They had Derrick Henry there as well. I mean, they've got Caleb Johnson now, who people have kind of been comping to a smaller, not as good Derrick Henry. So maybe we see a little bit of AJ Brown back of the Titans similarities between DK. But yeah, like you said, he's going to have so much coverage on him because there is absolutely nobody else. They did add Jonnu Smith, but I mean, how's that going to look? They've got, I don't know. That's just, it's going to be a big question mark.
Two currently?
Calvin Austin, I think, is leading to be the number 2, which says a lot. So
going to need him to take massive strides in 2025 because that means DK Metcalf is going to be under a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. He's going to have the safety and the cornerback just all over him. Yeah. I hate it.
Yeah. It's a tough one, but hey, he's the clear above number 1 option on that team in the receiving room. And I mean, you're getting him at the back end of the 6th round. I think he's probably going around like a wide receiver, like 28 or something like that in terms of ADP. And last year he did finish as wide receiver 32. So, but he missed a couple of games. It was a down year for DK.
Just think about the situation that George Pickens was in last year. Right?
Yeah.
And he was just really just down the dumps for the majority of the year, right?
Yep.
If you compare that situation to now what he's got now, is Aaron Rodgers a downgrade on Russell Wilson?
I think I'd rather Rodgers, honestly. I think he's definitely more accurate, and he doesn't just chuck a moon ball like Russell Wilson. That's really all his calling card was. I think more short to intermediate stuff he's going to be getting. But yeah, it's definitely not a clear upgrade. I don't think it's much for muchness, really.
Yeah. He's 41 now.
Yep, he's getting old. I think it'll only take one hit too. One good hit, one big hit, and that could be him. That could be him for his career done. So, and they don't really have anybody else behind Aaron Rodgers. I think they've got Will Howard, who they drafted in the 5th round, I believe, or the 6th round rather, and then Mason Rudolph. So I mean, if Rodgers goes down, may as well be you and me out there slinging the rock to DK Mav. He won't be getting much more help than that. So.
But look,
one to watch.
DK Metcalf, let's be honest though, for the majority of his career has sort of exceeded expectations. So this is probably the opportunity where you're either getting him at a bargain in the round 6, or he just can't overcome the shit show that Aaron Rodgers could be this year, with the offense being at a real slow pace, run first heavy offense. It's hard, but I'm probably fading at this point in my time with DK Metcalf. And it hurts me to say that because I really, really like DK Metcalf. I really, really like him, but I just can't get around this situation.
Yeah, and that's fair. I'm on the other side of this one, Mav. It'll be a good one to see how it plays out. I think just the draft costs, back end or kind of mid wide receiver 3. He definitely has 10 touchdown upside as well. I don't think he needs a lot of opportunity. That's probably one thing that kind of goes in his favor. Yeah, big play. Absolutely kills it in man-to-man. So yeah, it'll be but yeah, Steelers going to be playing slow, like our friend Matt Carmody has put here in the comments. They're going to be playing slow. They're going to be running the ball 20 to 25 times every day that they can. So one to watch out. It'll be a good one. But yeah, we're split on DK Metcalf, but that wraps up all of our shine or decline players for tonight. Let us know in the comments in this video what you guys kind of think, and if you have any controversial players that you think can kind of go either way. Just running them through: CJ Stroud, Breece Hall, George Pickens, Caleb Williams, Xavier Worthy, and DK Metcalf. They're definitely volatile outcomes, I think, for all of those players. And I mean, we're just getting closer and closer, Mav. We just get more and more excited. We're looking at where next week's going to be the middle of July. When we get to August, we're going to be absolutely ramping up here at Insight NFL. So make sure that you tune in and stick along for the ride. We're going to be absolutely pumping out content. Like we mentioned earlier, the training camp hype videos or training camp hype shows, it's going to be one to watch to try and get an edge on your league mates. And we're going to have a special one next week. We've got a mock draft, which is always fun, with a couple of special guests from the Insight community. So, Mav, how are your kind of thoughts? You know, we're nine Sundays to go, getting closer and closer. The hype's coming.
Yeah, pumped, mate, pumped. And as just to touch on what you were just dribbling on about just before, our August schedule is going to be jam packed. We're pretty much going to be live on the on here between Monday and Friday throughout the whole of August, and probably into September, going into week 1. So it's going to be a jam packed schedule. I think that's probably when NFL fantasy as such is at its absolute peak, is pre-season. Everyone likes to get the goss on what everyone thinks about, fantasy drafts and stuff like that. So, mate, I love talking NFL fantasy. It's probably my favorite fantasy sport to talk about. Sometimes good, sometimes shit. I do have quite a few rings, but I've also had a few stinkers along the way too. So it's just good fun. I think at that time throughout August is going to be very, very fun. Full on. It's going to be full on for us, being obviously having full-time jobs and then coming on here and talking fantasy. But that's what we're here for. So that's what I love doing. So it's going to be good fun. Fantasy leagues will be starting up shortly. Hopefully in the next sort of week or two, I'll start creating them. I'm not sure how many we'll have yet, so just register interest in either in the Patreon, in the DMs, or on any sort of Insight social media. There'll be some links and some comments and some tweets and posts and et cetera, coming out very shortly. So don't miss that. It's going to be a biggie.
Yeah, they're all gonna be free entries too, right? We're gonna be, there's gonna be a chance for you to get a free entry into a league to win some cash. And with that, we're going to be having all leagues with a 2-minute pick timers, or 2 to 3 minutes, or anything like that. We're gonna be live streaming all the redraft leagues here throughout August. Yeah, probably I think mid-August, Mav, we were probably looking at launching those with drafts, just because with we want to try and get as close to season start as we can, because the last thing that you want is you draft in early August, or in the middle of training camp, and after you draft your team, your top 2 pick is injured for the year. So we'll be holding off of that. So definitely keep your eyes peeled if you are looking to get involved in some redraft leagues. And it's going to be good. It's going to be, we're so excited. Absolutely love fantasy, and NFL here is just getting even more hyped in Australia. So definitely want to stay tuned in. And we'll be back next week with a mock draft. So guys, also just to mention, best way to support us, like, comment this video. We really appreciate it. And any podcast platform that you listen to us to, we just absolutely love and froth of 5-star reviews. So that'll do us here at the Insight NFL pod. And we'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.